Hello everybody, it's another dawn with Mount Fuji. The camera's running. I wanted to tell you about an interesting conversation I had with my wife yesterday. Over the weekend, it's Monday morning, over the weekend Yumiko and I watched a movie, Contagion. And as the name suggests, the movie was about a very dangerous virus that was spreading around the world with a high mortality rate and easy transmission, type of a true horror story, which the world, I think, largely likes to remain unthoughtful of. It really is the type of thing that in the past has wiped out large portions of humanity. And I think in our current population and mobility and interconnectedness remains an amazing threat. So I was very interested in the movie, which the movie itself was all right. It was a good story, good actors, slow. It just never really seemed to really catch fire. And both Yumiko and I we found it interesting, but not engaging necessarily. But we enjoyed it, as Yumiko and I want to do, as we have. One of the things I remember so sweetly of our early years together was going to movies and going to coffee shops and bookstores afterwards, and then sharing together about the movies. And we did that yesterday. We had some errands to run, just the two of us, and we were driving around the city. And Yumiko ventured the curious question. She asked, Kurt, what do you think it would be like if that type of an event occurred here in Japan? Now, the event was occurring in Japan in the movie. It was occurring all around the world in major metropolitan areas around the world. But the focus was in the United States, and what was happening in the United States was, as people were beginning, and this is all fiction, of course, but as people were becoming aware of the danger, and that they were kind of on their own in many ways, that social services were unable to cope with it and withdrawing. Rioting was ensuing. People were looting supermarkets and banks and television stores, or whatever that you could see it in the movie. It was happening. Chaos had ensued in the movie. And Yumiko and I were both kind of like, watching this, go, wow, And she asked, "What do you think would happen in Japan if that was to happen? Let's say, a disease, the same type of thing were occurring here. How would the Japanese population respond?" We thought about it. We talked about it for a little bit, and I think that the most interesting pieces that came out of our conversation were the observation that a couple of things. One was I'll give you a few things, and then I'll close with the one statement that Yumiko said that really set me back in my seat. She has a way of summarizing things, and it's too bad. It's really, 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 the world is really missing out. It's too bad that Yumiko doesn't choose to share her thoughts on YouTube, because she's an amazing human being, an amazing thinker, and apt and capable of just in the kind of things that just throw you off back in your seat with their way to go right to the heart of the issue. So anyway, through our conversation, one of the things that we talked about was that one of the things that would happen was that something here in Japan that Yumiko and I largely take for granted, a lot of people here in Japan, especially younger adults, tend to take for granted, is the Japanese social network of communication and help services, the infrastructure that is largely, in many cases, community driven. For example, there's a park right over here where every year the community, and this is common all around Japan, people do it everywhere. The communities, how's the camera doing? The communities members get together to practice disaster drills. We do it every year. Largely, it's run by the older folks in the community, and they have their leaders who then teach us. We go through drills of emergency triage, first aid, how to take a chainsaw, how to cut down the dead wood like this to create fires. We have groups of women that are basically taking care of all the emergency food rations, and they have these giant old-style Japanese kettle cookers, the Kamado kettle things, and they're cooking up batches of rice and mixing in veggies to make hearty, simple, delicious meals to feed the people. There's the boiling water for fresh water supply. Every type of fire drills, how to use fire extinguishers to put fires out, all these types of things. And I attend every year with my family, and we all kind of do it, okay, this is our community duty, and we don't really think much about it. But in the event that we really were to come to need, that's the kind of thing that would go into play, especially the community leadership, the leaders of the community that are given the mandate to take charge, to come forward and to take charge and to direct the people. Another thing is the social communication system. Japan has not only a wonderful television and radio system, of course, but they also have this broadcast system. There's speakers everywhere, all throughout the whole country. I mean, literally, if it was necessary, someone in each of these communities, people can get on the loudspeaker and broadcast things about alerts. We're sitting at home sometimes in the evening, just watching TV, and you'll hear blah 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 blah. Sorry, I don't remember what they said. I don't mean to say it, be disrespectful, but it's something's going on. And my wife, I can't make it out. My wife says to me, "Oh, it says there's going to be high winds later, or something like that, or there was an earthquake somewhere," and. But they can get. I think that someone in Japan could get on. There's a central system. Get on the loudspeaker and talk to the whole country, broadcasting their voice around the whole country to coordinate things. But more than almost anything else, what happened is what Miko and I thought would happen was, and this is largely Yumiko talking, was. This part was me. I think that the Japanese social cohesiveness, the uniformity of mind, the sense of community, the sense of oneness in the people, the ware ware Nipponjin, the we Japanese, would kick in, whereas they would. Looting from your neighbor is almost like going into your mother-in-law's pantry and stealing stuff. It's almost like brother and sister, where there's this community spirit that would and this trained sense of reserve and consciousness and a capacity to maintain control over one's emotions that I think that many people tend to idealize, especially people who haven't lived in Japan, tend to idealize that to the extreme, almost as if the Japanese are not quite like the rest of us. But they are people just like the rest of us. But their culture is one very, very powerful in terms of the social elements, and the ability of people, the training that they've had to regard others first and themselves, their own self second. I think things would pretty much stable if that were to occur here. The emergency systems would set up, the medical systems would be set up, and then what would come to the final statement that my wife made, which really was the one that nailed me. She basically said she thought that rather than going out and looting in the streets and struggling like that, she said that people would simply die quietly in their homes. That's what she said. She said, Kurt, I think people would just die quietly in their homes. If they had if this was going on, they would do what they could, try to see the doctor. They would form orderly lines. They would take the medicine that was given them, and then they would go home and wait it out and die quietly in their homes. And I think she's absolutely right. I think that's exactly what would happen. And there's a lot. I wish you could have been there when she said it, the way she said it, because she wasn't trying to be dramatic or anything like that. It was almost just a statement of fact and observation born of experience and being a part of that group as she is. So there you go. I hope that Japan is never trialed that way. I hope that the rest of the world never has to suffer these types of experiences. But I did tell Yumiko this. I told her that this is the place. If there was a disaster, a global type of a disaster, this is the country that I'd probably want to be in for the sake of my daughter. And I think that we have the best chance of getting by. And I don't mean that as condemnation or criticism of any other culture or social system or emergency system, and it's certainly not of my own culture. My country, I would want to be in my country. If it was just me individually, I'd want to be in my country to help my people. But I'm a man of two countries now, and my foremost thought in such circumstances would be the welfare of my daughter. And I truly do think that she'd have the best chance in a country like this, where the system will come together in many ways. And I hope that my own culture would not fall apart the way it did in the movie there, but we'll see. Hopefully we won't see. There you go. I think the time lapse is it's finishing up, so I'm going to go ahead and sign off for now. Thanks. See the movie Contagion if you want something to think about. Maybe rent it on DVD. I don't necessarily recommend it as a great theater movie. It's probably too late. It's probably out of the theaters now. But certainly food for thought. Take care, everybody. Have a wonderful day. Take care.